May morning at sea. The survivors of Palma Flora stirred awake as the morning sun cast golden light over the ocean. The gentle rocking of the ship was far more peaceful than the chaos of the previous day. The deck was cluttered with people resting wherever they could find space, their exhaustion evident in their heavy breaths and slow movements. Nathaniel sat cross-legged on the deck, his sword resting on his lap, whispering quiet prayers to his God as he did every morning. The rhythmic creaking of the ship and the occasional call from the crew were the only interruptions. His fingers traced the hilt of his blade, a familiar comfort after the horror they had escaped. Maddogg stretched his arms wide, cracking his neck. Well, that was a hell of a night. Could have used a proper bed, but I guess not drowning was a win. Azmadan smirked as he tore a piece of bread from the breakfast laid out for them. What's the matter, Maddogg? Can't handle a little discomfort? You'd never make it as a street rat. Maddogg scoffed. No, but I'm a champion, so that makes up for it. Nathaniel glanced up from his prayers. We've survived worse. But Palma Flora, we should have been able to save more. His grip on his sword tightened slightly. Azmadan waved a hand dismissively. We did what we could, mate. Can't go carrying the weight of every disaster on your back. He leaned in with a grin. But hey, maybe your god can get a refund for those people. Maddogg chuckled through a mouthful of food. That's assuming gods care about anyone but themselves. Nathaniel sighed, used to these kinds of remarks from the two. The gods guide those who listen. Maddogg smirked. Nah, they guide those they can use. Azmadan snickered. See, Maddogg gets it. Nathaniel chose not to press further, instead turning to Azmadan. You mentioned your friend, Takast. You think he might be in trouble? Azmadan leaned back against the railing, tapping his fingers against the wooden surface. He left Gordon about a month ago, looking for answers about the god that started whispering in his ear. Same god that decided to give me these tricks. He wiggled his fingers, letting a small pulse of eldritch energy flicker between them. I figured I should track him down before he gets himself into something he can't talk his way out of. Maddogg snorted. Sounds like your mate's already lost if he's chasing gods. Azmadan shrugged. Or maybe he's about to stumble into something bigger than any of us. He pointed at Nathaniel. You should appreciate that, Mr. Holy Man. Nathaniel sighed. If we find him, I only hope he's safe. Azmadan raised an eyebrow. Oh, I doubt that. We've never been the safe types. Before they could continue, a sailor approached them, wiping his hands on a cloth. Captain wants to see you three in her quarters. The trio followed the sailor into the captain's quarters. The scent of salt, parchment, and a faint hint of something spiced filled the air. Behind a large wooden desk, 3 earrings, the female tabaxi captain, sat lounging in her chair. Her piercing feline eyes studied them, the 3 golden hoops in her ear glinting in the lamplight. Nathaniel stepped forward with a respectful nod. I am Nathaniel of the Order of the Phoenix. 3 earrings' whiskers twitched. Ah, I've heard of you 3. You helped get some of the survivors out alive. She leaned forward, steepling her fingers. You seem handy in a fight. Maddogg folded his arms. We get by. Azmadan smirked. Some of us more than others. 3 earrings' tail flicked behind her as she gave them a considering look. I could use fighters like you. There's gold to be made, if you're interested. At the mention of gold, Maddogg's expression shifted. Gold, huh? Now you have my attention. She leaned back, a satisfied grin on her feline features. I know where the Sahuagin leader is holed up. He has something I want, a staff. But getting to him will be a challenge. Nathaniel frowned. A staff? She waved a hand dismissively. Let's just say it has sentimental value. You do this for me, and you'll be well compensated. Maddogg cracked his knuckles. I'm in. Only problem is we can't breathe underwater. 3 earrings chuckled, the sound almost purring. I know someone who might have a solution for that. She lives on an island called Broken Bank. If you're willing, I'll take you there, and we'll see if she has the potions you need." Nathaniel exchanged glances with Azmadan and Maddogg. Azmadan shrugged. Maddogg just grinned. Nathaniel gave a nod. "Then we have an agreement." 3 earrings stood, her tail flicking as she stepped past them, opening the door. "Good. Then let's set sail." As they left her quarters, Nathaniel's eyes narrowed slightly. Something about her felt off. He glanced around and spotted a tattoo on one of the crew members, a mark of the revelry. His stomach tightened slightly as realization dawned. This wasn't just any ship. It was a pirate ship. Chapter 6: Secrets Below Deck and Skyborne Threats. Nathaniel, Azmadan, and Maddogg made their way down into the hull of the ship, seeking a quiet spot to talk. The scent of salt, damp wood, and faint traces of rum filled the air as they found an unoccupied table and a few rickety chairs. The ship creaked around them, the distant sounds of waves lapping against the hull providing an uneasy calm. Nathaniel leaned forward, lowering his voice. "I saw one of the crew members with a revelry tattoo. This ship might be a pirate vessel." Azmadan smirked, tearing a bite from a chunk of bread. "And?" Maddogg leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Doesn't change much for us. We needed a ship. We got one." Nathaniel sighed. "It changes everything. If they are with the revelry, we can't trust them. Who knows what they have planned?" Azmadan chuckled, waving a hand dismissively. "Relax, holy man. We're all fugitives in one way or another. What's a few pirates in the mix?" Before Nathaniel could respond, footsteps approached. A human male, clad in a ranger's outfit, with long brown hair and a travel-worn demeanor, pulled up a chair and sat down without invitation. He rested his arms on the table, flashing an easy smile. "Roberto," he said. "But most just call me Bob." Maddogg raised an eyebrow. "All right, Bob. What do you want?" Bob leaned in slightly. "I saw you lot fighting back in Palma Flora. Good work. I was there, too, but didn't get much of a chance to help before it all went under. Figured I'd see if I could tag along with you." Nathaniel studied him. His gear was all in place, bow, quiver, well-made boots, but there was something about the way he carried himself, the slight uncertainty in his posture, that suggested he wasn't quite battle-tested. Azmadan gave a knowing grin. "You any good with that bow, Bob?" Bob hesitated for only a moment. "I get by." Maddogg smirked. "Well, you don't seem dead yet, so that's a start." Bob chuckled, relieved. The 4 of them continued their conversation, exchanging small talk about their travels, their experiences, though they each kept their own secrets well guarded. Later in the day, as the ship continued cutting through the waves, Azmadan pulled Maddogg aside near the railing. He spoke in hushed tones, glancing to make sure Nathaniel wasn't within earshot. "I didn't want to mention this in front of Nathaniel, him being a goody two-shoes and all, but if this is a pirate ship, that means there's probably a pile of gold somewhere on board." Maddogg grinned, cracking his knuckles. "Sounds like an idea, Big Red, but we'll have to pick the right time. No sense getting caught with our hands in the till." Azmadan nodded. "Exactly. We wait. We watch. Then we take." Before they could say more, a sudden cry rang out from above deck. "Harpies! Harpies approaching!" The ship erupted into motion as crew members scrambled to grab weapons and prepare for the attack. The trio and Bob rushed up the steps, emerging onto the deck just as a swarm of winged creatures descended from the skies. The Harpies were hideous, bird-like monsters with humanoid torsos, their claws sharp as daggers, their wings beating against the salty wind. Their eerie, melodic voices drifted through the air, attempting to ensnare the minds of those who listened too long. Nathaniel raised his shield, gripping his sword tightly. Plug your ears if you have to. Don't let their song take hold. One harpy swooped low, talons extended toward a crew member. Maddogg reacted first, grabbing a nearby rope and using it to swing himself onto the creature's back. With a roar, he drove his fists into its skull, sending it spiraling into the ocean below. Azmadan's hands wove through the air as he conjured eldritch energy, hurling crackling bolts toward the beasts. One harpy shrieked as the blast struck its wing, sending it tumbling out of the sky before it crashed against the deck with a sickening thud. Bob, standing near the ship's railing, raised his bow, his hand steady. He took aim and loosed an arrow, only for it to completely miss its mark. He barely had time to react before a harpy lunged at him, knocking him backward. Nathaniel rushed forward, bringing his sword up in a sweeping arc. The blade cut through the harpy's side, forcing it to retreat with a screech. He pulled Bob up, giving him a quick glance. "You all right?" Bob nodded, breathless. "Yeah, just need a little more practice." Maddogg and Azmadan continued tearing through the attackers, fighting back-to-back as harpy bodies hit the deck. The ship's crew fought fiercely, and after a long, chaotic battle, the last harpy let out a dying wail as it tumbled into the sea. The deck was left in silence, save for the heavy breathing of the survivors. Nathaniel wiped his blade clean, Maddogg cracked his neck with satisfaction, and Azmadan stretched his fingers, the last traces of his magic fading from the air. Bob exhaled and shook his head. "Yeah. Definitely need more practice." Maddogg clapped him on the back. "Don't worry, Bob. Stick with us, and you'll be a proper fighter in no time." Azmadan smirked. "Or dead. One of the two." Nathaniel rolled his eyes, but said nothing. For now, they had won. But the sea was vast, and danger lurked on every horizon.